discussion from chapter 5. So very interesting discussion gonna come now. Let's offer prayers together and we'll begin our discussion. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashanakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatari Shatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna. So Sanatana Goswami meets Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Varanasi, where they spend almost 2 months together. And during that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke to Sanatana Goswami, which is being mentioned here now in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya book by Srila Prabhupada. And we're going to begin our discussion on the 5th chapter. Prior to this, the subject matter was wise man. Actually, teachings begin from the 3rd chapter, where we saw how Sanatana Goswami actually inquired from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who am I, what is my dharma, etc., etc. And then the 4th chapter, the wise man, who is the wisest of all, the one who takes to the path of bhakti, not karma, not jnana, not meditation, but bhakti. Now, chapter 5, how to approach Krishna. My throat is not good, others can be ready to read. Okay, I'll give you a synopsis of it. So in this chapter, how to approach God, there are different ways described in scriptures how we can approach God. There is karma, there is jnana, there is ashtanga yoga, and then there is bhakti yoga. So here in this chapter, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Sanatana Goswami, among all different paths, the best path is through bhakti. And then there are a lot of references given from different scriptures, particularly Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes from Bhagavad Gita like this. And then there is an interesting concept of Ashraya and Ashrita. How Krishna is Ekailaha, Paramha, Krishna, or Ishwaraha. To explain that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about 2 concepts, Ashraya and Ashrita. Ashraya, one who gives shelter. Ashrita, one who takes shelter. So there are 2 principles in this creation. One is called Ashraya, other is called Ashrita. One who gives shelter is Ishwara, and Ashrita, one who takes shelter. So therefore, everything in this creation is sheltered upon the Supreme Lord. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagatapyukta murtina. Like this. So this is the subject matter of this chapter. Let's take a look. Let's start reading from the first paragraph. You'll have to work out with the sound, Abhishek.
Actually, all Vedic literature directs the human being toward the perfect stage of devotion. The paths of fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, and meditation do not lead one to the perfectional stage, but by the process of devotional service, the Lord actually becomes approachable. Therefore, all Vedic literature recommends that one accept this process. In this regard, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted from the Lord's instruction to Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam, Na sadhyati mama yogo, na sankyam dharma uddhava, na swadhyas tapaschago, yatha bhaktir mamorjita. My dear Uddhava, neither philosophical speculation, nor meditational yoga, nor penances can give me such pleasure as devotional service practiced by the living entities. Krishna is dear only to the devotees, and he can only be achieved by devotional service. If a lowly born person is a devotee, he automatically becomes free from all contamination. Devotional service is the Devotional service is the only path by which one can achieve the supreme person. This is the only perfection accepted by all Vedic literature. Just as a poor man becomes happy upon receiving some treasure, when one attends to devotional service, his material pains are automatically vanquished. As one advances in devotional service, he attains love of Godhead, and as he advances in this love, he becomes free from all material bondage. One should not think, however, that the disappearance of poverty and liberation from the bondage are the end results of love of Krishna. It is in relishing the reciprocation of loving service that love of Krishna exists. In all Vedic literatures, we find that the attainment of this loving relationship between the Supreme Lord and the living entities is the function of devotional service. Our actual function is devotional service, and our ultimate goal is love of Godhead. In all Vedic literatures, it can be found that Krishna is the ultimate center, for through knowledge of Krishna, all problems of life are solved. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out that although according to Padma Puran, there are different scriptures for worshipping different types of demigod. Such instructions only bewilder people into thinking that the demigods are supreme. Yet, if one carefully scrutinizes and studies the Puranas, he will find that Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, is the only object of worship.
A lot of people debate on the subject matter. There's something called as monotheistic and polytheistic. Monism and dualism. These are different concepts. Theistic means theist means Bhagwan. Monotheistic means one God. Polytheistic means many gods. Paganism means trees, birds, everything is God in that way. Then there is a concept of monism and dualism. Monism means everything is one. And dualism means Lord is an entity, has his own identity, and we have our own identity, Ishvara and Jiva. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, although the references of Shiv Puran, Devi Mahatmya, etc., Devi Puran, which apparently declares these devatas to be Supreme Personality Godhead. But if you scrutinizingly study, even in that scriptures, you'll see Krishna to be supreme. And for that, he quotes Markandeya Purana, and he says, in Markandeya Purana, there is a mention of Devi worship, or worship of the goddess Durga Kali. But in the same Chandika, it is also stated that all the demigods, even in the shape of Durga Kali, are different energies of the Supreme Vishnu. The study of the Puranas revealed Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to be the only object of worship. Please read further. The conclusion is,
The conclusion is that, directly or indirectly, all types of worship are more or less directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that one who worships the demigod is in fact only worshipping Krishna, because the demigods are but different parts of the body of Vishnu or Krishna. That such worship of demigods is irregular is also stated in Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavatam confirms this irregularity by asking the question, what is the object of worshipping the different types of demigods? In Vedic literature, there are various divisions of ritualistic activities. One is Karma Kand, or purely ritualistic activities, and another is Gyan Kand, or speculation on the supreme absolute truth. What then is the purpose of the ritualistic sections of Vedic literatures, and what is the purpose of different mantras or hymns that indicate worship of various demigods? And what is the purpose of philosophical speculation on the subject of absolute truth? Srimad Bhagavatam replies that in actuality all of these methods defined in the Vedas indicate the worship of Supreme Lord Vishnu. In other words, they are all indirect ways of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So that's the point here. Uh, you know, akama sarva kamova moksha kama udharidhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Anyways, you have no desires, you have all the desires, or you have desire for liberation in any way, approach the Supreme Personality Godhead. Now, what's the significance of this verse? That comes in second canto. This verse comes after a series of verses where if you have a desire to get a good husband, beautiful wife, you have a desire to get wealth, you have a desire for health, there's a whole list of verses indicating whom do you worship. Just like in first canto, third chapter, there is different avatars which are mentioned. And after a discussion on all the avatars, then Sukadeva Goswami says, Ete chamsa kalapamsa Krishna su Bhagavan Swayam. Ete means these. Amsha. Of whom? Ete chamsa kalapamsa Krishna tu Bhagavan Swayam. So again brings it to Krishna. Then in the second canto, I believe it's the third or the fourth chapter, or second canto, Karmi's fruitive mentality of fruitive workers have been described, how they approach or who they can approach for different desires. Almost 40, 50 names of different demigods with different desires that can be fulfilled is mentioned. After all that is done, and then comes the verse, Akama, Sarva Kamava, Moksha Kama Dhariti. You are desireless, you have all the desires, you want moksha. For all of that, approach only Supreme Personality of God. Like that, it has been described over here. All right. Next, neophytes. Now, here, all that is said neophytes, these are not Kanishta Adhikaris. These are neophytes, pious people or religious people. To them, neophytes have been said. Somebody else would like to read? Go ahead. Next paragraph. Since neophytes are not, once again, this is not Kanishta Adhikari. Okay.
Since neophytes are not all on the same transcendental level, they are advised to worship different types of demigods according to their situation in the different modes of material nature. The idea is that gradually such neophytes may rise to the transcendental plane and engage in the service of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For instance, some neophytes who are attached to the flesh eating are advised by the Puranas to eat flesh after offering it to the deity Kali. The philosophical sections of the Vedic hymns are intended to enable one to distinguish the Supreme Lord from Maya. After one understands the position of Maya, he can approach the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. That is the actual purpose of philosophical speculation, and this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janmana bahunam janmana mante jnanavatma prapadyate vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha.
You don't have to mute me. It should not be. Or you can disable that sound जो होता है ना उससे. It will only take the mic sound. So the point here is Bhavanam Janmanam Ante Jnanaman Mam. At the end of the day, so worship of Devtas is nothing but an indirect worship of me. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And then these Gyanis, after many, many lifetimes, finally they come to a conclusion, understand that Vasudevaha Sarvam Iti. Like this is described here. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Sanatana Goswami. So that's the first part. Who is the Supreme Personality, whom should be worship, or how to approach God. Well, that is subject matter will come right now. The first part was who is the Supreme Personality Godhead. That has been clarified so far. Now, next discussion. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Sanatana Goswami about Krishna's multi-forms and his unlimited opulences. Now, what is multi-forms? The discussion will come in the next chapter. Let's see what is mentioned here. Particularly here, his opulence is discussed. Within his opulences, his material and spiritual energy is highlighted. He also described the nature of spiritual manifestation, manifestation of the living entities, which means Antaranga, Bhairanga, Tathasya Shakti. He also informs Sanatana Goswami that the planets in the spiritual sky known as Vakunthas And the universals of material manifestations are actually different types of manifestation, for they are created manifestation of two different types of energy, spiritual and material. As far as Krishna himself is concerned, he is directly situated in his spiritual energy, or specifically in his internal potency. Please continue.
To help us understand the difference between the spiritual and material energies, here is a clear analysis of two in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sridhar Swami also gives a clear analytical study in his commentary on the first verse of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sridhar Swami was accepted by the Lord Chaitanya as an authorized commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted his writings and explained that in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, the life and the activities of Krishna are described because Krishna is the shelter of all manifestations. Knowing this, Sridhar Swami worshipped and offered his obeisances unto Krishna as the shelter of everything.
Hare Krishna. Namam Ishwaram Satchit Ananda Rupam. That's what we were discussing today morning at 4:30 also. Satyavat Muni begins his famous prayers called Damodarashtakam with Namami Ishwaram Satchidananda Vigraha. We were talking about Tattva Vishesh. What does this Ishwaram mean? That is what has been discussed here. Now, the next point is in the same thing. We talked about his opulences. So there is two concepts, Ashraya and Ashrita. Ashraya means one who gives shelter. Ashrita means who is dependent. So my question to all of you, are you independent or dependent? You are an independent, you are a citizen of an independent state where you live in complete dependence. Is the actual legal definition of your current situation. Agreed? Yes or no? You are a citizen of an independent state where you live in complete dependence. If the government does not release water, you will not get water. Government doesn't provide electricity, you will not get electricity. The water, electricity, fuel, food, everything is controlled by government. If they want to close it, if they want to release it, it's all dependent on the government like this. It wasn't like this before in Vedic culture. Now because everything is controlled by government means living entity, Jiva. So therefore we have made Jiva as God. But earlier people were living in villages, in the towns, where you have a fresh stream of water coming down, gushing down from the forest or the mountain. When people will drink drinking water, they'll remember the Lord's mercy. When they'll grow crops and eat that vegetable, they'll remember the mercy of the Lord. The fresh air, everything was coming direct supply directly from the Lord. Anyways, Ashraya, Ashrita. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with Janmad Yasya Yatha Anvarayat Itras Charte Shubhigna Swarat. So Krishna, or the Lord, is completely independent. Well, he is completely independent. All of us are fully dependent on him. Two things. We also have minute independence. It's not that we don't have independence. It's not that like we are a machine. Fully dependent means machine, dead matter. But no, we are a superior principle. Krishna says in 7.4, 7.5, Aparayamitastvanyam. Beyond this, there is another nature, which is superior to the dull matter. So this minute independence we have because there is an independence in the Lord. We are part and parcel of others. We also have minute independence, but this minute independence has to be used in taking shelter of the right source, becoming dependent on the right source. That's the matter. So here, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Ashrita, we are fully dependent in all means. Unfortunately, we have replaced the God factor and we have put ourselves into the picture. Like this, we are dependent like this. So the purpose of the material manifestation is to give the conditioned soul a chance to attain liberation, return to the Ashraya, Tattva, or the absolute truth. Since everything in the cosmic creation is dependent on the Ashraya, Tattva. I'm reading from the middle of the paragraph, like this. The various demigods, manifestations of energy, the living entities, and all material elements are dependent on Krishna, for Krishna is supreme truth. The Srimad Bhagavatam indicates that everything is sheltered by Krishna directly and indirectly. All right. So among the opulences, Ashra and Ashrita principle has been described. Now, next, Lord Chaitanya then asked Sanatana Goswami to listen attentively as he described different features of Krishna. All right. He then informed, please go ahead, read out.
He then informed him that Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaja, is the absolute truth, the cause of all causes and the origin of all emanations and incarnations. Yet in Vraja or Golok Vrindavana, he is just like a young boy and is the son of Nanda Maharaj. His form, however, is eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge absolute. He is both the shelter of everything and the proprietor as well. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also gives evidence from the Brahma Samhita of the transcendental properties of Lord Krishna's body. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachid Ananda Vigraha, Anadi Radhir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal bliss spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin and he is the prime causes of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives evidence that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, full in all six opulences. It is uh, it is Sri Krishna whose abode known as Golok Vrindavan is the highest planetary system in the spiritual sky. In addition, Lord Chaitanya also quotes one verse from Srimad
We
Bhagavatam.
discussed about this already. So Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking to Sanatana and giving evidences how Krishna is the supreme personality of God. We quoted both these verses like this. Going to the next, there are three different processes by which Krishna can be understood. What are the three processes? One is, philosophical speculation, jnana. Second is Ashtanga Yoga. And third is Bhakti Yoga. Now the subject matter, how to approach God, is being highlighted. So Srimad Bhagavatam says, gives a very interesting concept about the absolute truth. And Srimad Bhagavatam says, Vadanti tat tatva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam prameti pramatmeti bhavaniti shabdate. Bhagwan has understood or can be understood three features: Sat, Sat plus Chit, and Sat plus Chit plus Anand. Which means Sat means eternity, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means bliss. So the form, Satchit Ananda form, that is Krishna form in the Goloka Vrindavan or the Vaikuntha planets. Sat plus Chit, Ananda is missing. Sat plus Chit is Paramatma form, whereas Sat, eternity, that is Brahman realization. So Gyanis, through their practice, they approach Brahman. Yogis, through their meditation, they approach Paramatma. And it is only Bhaktas who have access to Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. All right, please read the paragraph.
Those who are knowers of absolute truth describes the absolute truth in the three features of impersonal Brahman, localized all pervading supersoul and the supreme personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, Brahman, the impersonal manifestation, Paramatma, the localized manifestation, and Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead, are one and the same. However, according to the process adopted, he is realized as Brahma, Paramatma,
Brahman, not Brahman.
Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan.
Correct.
By realizing the impersonal
So point
Brahman,
is, if you realize Brahman, you have access of Sat feature. If you realize Paramatma, you have access to Sat plus knowledge. Knowledge, now there is a Lord. And Ananda means now you can have playful pastimes with the Lord. Now those rasas come into action. Sakya bhav, vasalya, madhurya, like that. Those and dasya, they come into action. So there is Ananda. Ananda is only possible when there is an exchange of emotions. Ananda is only possible between living entities. Ananda is not possible between living entity and a dead matter. It is not possible. Like this. To help us understand, Prabhupada gives an example, or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives an example of sun. Go ahead. This effulgence.
this effulgence is compared to the sunshine. There is the sun god, the sun itself, and the sunshine, which is the shining effulgence of that original sun god. Similarly, the spiritual effulgence, Brahma Jyoti, impersonal Brahman, is nothing but the personal effulgence of Krishna. To support this analysis, Lord Chaitanya quotes one important verse from Brahma Samhita, in which Lord Brahma says, Yasya Prabha Prabhato Jagananda Kotishva Asesha Vasudhati Vibhuti Bhinna Tad
Tad
Brahma
Brahma
Nishkamalam Ananta
Nishkalamanantam
Asesha Bhut.
Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adi
Purusham.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose personal effulgence the unlimited Brahma Jyoti is manifested. In that Brahma Jyoti, there are innumerable universes, and each is filled with the innumerable planets. Brahma Samhita 5.40.
So then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is about Brahma Jyoti. He also speaks about Paramatma, which is highlighted in the next paragraph, that how Paramatma feature is just a partial expression of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the subject matter being highlighted here. While hearing of the transcendental pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan, Maharaj Parikshit inquired from his spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami why the inhabitants of Vrindavan were so much attached to Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami replied, Krishna menam avehitvam atmanam aglatmanam jagaditaya swapyatra devi bhavati mayaya. Padhiye.
Krishna should be known as the soul of all souls, for he is the soul of all individual souls and the souls of the localized Paramatma as well. At Vrindavan, he was acting just like a human being to attract people and to show that he is not formless. The Supreme Lord is as much as individual as other living beings, but he is different in that he is the supreme and all other living beings are subordinate to him. All other living beings can also enjoy the spiritual bliss, eternal life, and full knowledge in his association. Lord Chaitanya quotes a verse from Bhagavad Gita in which Krishna, telling Arjuna of his different opulences, points out that he himself entered this universe by one of his planetary portions, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and also enters into each universe as the Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and then expand himself as the super soul in everyone's heart.
So
Lord,
point is, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting Bhagavad Gita to explain how Lord expands into Karanadaksha, Garbhodaksha, Kshirodaksha, Vishnu. Anyone remembers where does this reference comes in Bhagavad Gita? Where does it is comes Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu?
Purush Avatar.
Homework. Take a look at it.
Purush Avatar.
Let me give a clue. Try 8th chapter. All right. So Lord Krishna himself indicates that if anyone wants to, so how do we understand? Krishna himself indicates. You can understand me through bhakti. Where does he indicate like that in Bhagavad Gita? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is quoting Bhagavad Gita. Where does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita, I can only be known by bhakti?
Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasya.
All right.
12th
Bhaktya
chapter.
Janati. What is the next line?
Yavan yasya tatvatah tato mam
Wonderful.
tatvato
Thank you so
gyatva.
much. भैया आवाज बढ़ा दो थोड़ा खुद ही आनंद ले रहे हो आप हमें भी सुनने दीजिए yes bhaktiya mam vijana thank you so much for that like that there are many shlokas where Krishna says about bhakti that's what has been quoted here so then it will be possible for him to understand the last word of the absolute truth so what had happened in this chapter right now is the discussion about how there are so many devatas. Monotheism versus polytheism. That was established through different scriptural references that how Krishna or Vishnu has been addressed in all the scriptures to be the absolute. However, those who are young or less intelligent people, those who don't, they're new on the path of religion, they fail to understand that and they go to here and there. So then we quoted a Kama Sarva Kama Shlok, how Bhagavatam says, after describing all different devatas whom you can approach for different desires, they say, well, why you want to shop around so much? Go to Krishna only directly. That was a point mentioned. Then after describing how Krishna is the one Ishvara. And then Krishna's opulences were described in the way of Ashraya and Ashritaha. Material world as well as spiritual world was discussed. Another subject matter which was highlighted in this chapter was about the form of the Lord. The Lord exists, understanding of Lord exists in three levels: Sat, Chit, Ananda. And Vadanti Tat Tattvavidas was quoted from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How do you understand Brahman realization is mentioned? How do you understand Paramatma realization is mentioned? To those who are Jnani, they reach Brahman realization. Those who are yogis, they reach Paramatma realization. Whereas those who are bhaktas, they alone reach the realization of Krishna being a person. And that brings us to chapter number 6. Now, which is a very fascinating and technically pretty advanced chapter, where there are going to be some technical terms, but it's going to become very interesting now. We'll get to know the form of the Lord which was in Mathura, what that Krishna was called as. The form of the Lord which was in Dwarka, what is that Krishna called in Dwarka? What about Lord Ram in Ayodhya? Now the subject matter will become more about Krishna that way. So that would be the subject matter of chapter 6. I don't intend to start today. My throat doesn't have much bandwidth here, and it's a little technical. I'll need to explain a little bit about the different forms. So the point which is going to happen from chapter 6 onwards is about numerous forms the Lord has. What are the forms? What are the relationship of these forms? The Supreme Personality God, Krishna, first. And second is the relationship of all of them with Goloka Vrindavan. That would be highlighted. Chapter 7 will talk about unlimited forms of God. The discussion continues here, also on the same, about different forms of the Lord. And then chapter 8 onwards discussion will be on avatar, the different avatars. So there are 6 avatars that that happens. Manavantra avatar, Yoga avatar, Purush avatar, Lila avatar, Yoga avatar, Shakti Vish avatar. They would be described like this. So that's the thing. So according to Vedic calendar, every month has an Ishta Devta, and that Ishta Devta is nothing but the expansion of the Lord. So we'll give you, does anyone know who are the Ishta of different months? Like, for example, this is October. Who is the Ishta of October? Okay, then who is the Ishta of November?
Damodar.
I can't hear anything. Abhishek. Hare Krishna.
Damodar.
Okay. So Damodar is for October. Then what about November? Okay, say ना don't know. तुम तो ऐसे गोलियां उड़ा रहे हवा में. भगवान के असंख्य अवतार हैं. तुम तो ऐसे बोलो कोई ना कोई तुक्का लग जाएगा. हाँ, तुम्हारा कॉन्फिडेंस भी बड़ा ही होता है. हाँ भाई. So ओम केशवाय नमः. ओम नवंबर नमः. Narayana Namaha. This is December. Om Keshvaya Namaha. Narayana Namaha. Madhavaya Namaha. So these all refers to November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and October. All right. So this is how it is. This is why I just said, because you remember all this Om Keshvaya Narayana Madhava Govinda Vishnu Madhusudana Trikona Vamana Shidra. Om Rishikeshaya Namaha Padmanaya Om Damodarai Namaha. October ends here. All right. With that, we also end our discussion here for today. Hopefully, I'll be in a better shape tomorrow. We'll have more elaborate discussion on the forms of the Lord. This was just getting started. We're going to get into more of Mathura and Vrindavan also soon. Okay, everyone. So thank you all for joining in for today morning discussion. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you, many of you who were there for the 4:30 program also. We'll try to have it as much as possible before we go for Kartik Yatra. At least all of us can come together and strengthen our Bhakti Shakti together. Hare Krishna.